Good afternoon. This is Adrian Knox, aka Mama Rand, filling in for the Willie Strickland at Forest Hill Library live. Um, this is Ordinary Conversations for Extraordinary People, Forest Hill Library. So today we've had some pretty interesting guests on our show, and we want to bring some more things that you would probably be interested in, or to excite you or enlighten you on what's going on, and some of the motivational things to let you know how people make it and overcome obstacles. Today I have with me Miss Sherry Smith. Y'all give it up for Sherry Smith.
Thank you for having me.
Sherry Smith has an interesting list of accolades to her credit. She was the former KHVN Heaven 97 on-air personality host of the Midday Praise Show and producer. Now, like I said, hello to all my our social media family. Some of you might not know what Heaven 97 is.
Oh
So
my goodness! If you live in this area, you got to know
yeah,
what Heaven 97.
if you live in this area, you probably know. But since we're reaching far beyond Fort Worth, we're gonna let Miss Sherry Smith give us a little brief synopsis of what Heaven 97 was to our community. It sort of fed and gave us information, and she'll probably enlighten you on that a little more. But that's just beginning of some of the things that are listed on her credit, and we'll get into more a little later. But if you can, if you remember, no, I know you do, what Heaven 97 was to the Dallas Fort Worth, to the Metroplex area.
Heaven 97 was an iconic Black gospel station started by Joe Bagsby. It was the be all for our community as far as gospel music and news going on in the community and everything. So when I was a student in college, I always wanted to work at Heaven 97. And years later, for the last 5 years that they were on the air, I came back and was able to do that. But yeah, if your big mama was up on a Sunday morning and gospel music was playing, it was probably coming from Heaven 97.
That's right. That's right. I remember that. It was always the media that sort of gave us connection into what was going on, specifically for our community. And so.
Well, you also had a community forum with Robert Ashley, the great Robert Ashley,
who's been
at that station for 30 years.
Okay.
So Robert was the one who made sure the things that were pertinent to our community were aired. So we were we knew what was going on.
Okay, that's
and we could voice our opinion on what was going on.
So otherwise, we were able to call in and share information, share our opinion. So it was initially created as just a musical outlet, or when did it come?
It was always gospel music. That was always the focus. But we also knew, with our history, anything with the church is also going to involve our community. So that was just a transition to just be able to do that. That was just a given added that, you would also have something that talked about what was going on in the community, what was impacting us, what was impacting our kids, what was impacting our livelihoods. And so producing Community Forum for the last 5 years was a joy for me because it was all about everything that was impacting us.
Okay. And later on, I'm going to ask a little tricky question as to what happened to that. You don't need to answer that now because.
I can tell you.
I'm going to ask you because we just wonder, how did you get an opportunity to have this advantage, and what inspired you to even go into that area?
So when I was in high school, I won a writing contest for the VFW. And part of winning that contest was that you had to go to a radio station and record your entry, and then it'd be judged nationwide. And while I was there, the gentleman who was recording me asked me, was I going to go to college? And I said, yes. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, oh, I'm going to be a writer. I wanted to write. And I wanted to write stories because the stories that I were seeing that were written about us in the media weren't accurate for my lifestyle. They weren't accurate to the people I knew, the
That's
neighborhoods I
right.
knew.
That's right.
They were not telling the truth.
Yes, that's right. They
So
didn't
I thought, oh
depict us
no.
like we saw
Yeah. So I
ourselves.
thought, oh no, that's not correct. Let me correct that. So that's why I was going to be a writer. So fast forward, I go to college, and there's a table next to the English table that I need to go to sign up for my writing course. And the professor, I'll never forget him, is Dr. Glick. He said, "Hey, you, this is for you." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, what is this?" And he said, "Well, this is television production." And I said, "Oh no." First of all, I was very shy then. And I thought, oh
And
no, I'm not getting
production.
in front of a camera. I'm not doing any of that. And I in my little haughty, so I said, oh no, I'm going to be a writer. And
All
so
right.
I
All
went
right.
to
All
the
right.
table next to him, and that class was closed. So he looked at me. He says, "Well, you have to have another class. You may as well take this one." I said, "No, I really am shy. I don't want to be in front of the camera." He says, "Well, no, you don't have to be in front of the camera. There's lots of things you can do behind the camera, and you don't have to worry about being seen." Well, that was the bamboozle part that got me to take the class. Got in, and then for a while, I was behind camera, but I'm a grades person, so I wanted my A for my class, and part of that was to get in front of the camera. And I
Okay.
was so angry, and I thought I just looked crazy and failed, and I was so angry. So when I got off, I said, "I know I just failed this class because I just blew that." He says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You didn't see my nervousness or whatever." He said, "Miss Smith, if you were nervous, we did not see it." He says, "I'm going to tell you right now, don't you ever go behind the camera again. Stay in front of it." So
Okay.
there I am.
Okay.
I had to get the
That was
persona
already destined, predestined.
or
Okay.
something. It
Yeah,
was in
that's
God's
wonderful.
plan. It wasn't
That's right. And
mine.
oh, that's
So
good. So you
after
did.
that class, I went and changed my degree from English to radio, TV, film.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. And with that, what were your expectations as to what you wanted to do with that radio and
In all
film?
three of those mediums, I wanted to tell truthful stories about us.
Okay.
Because sometimes when people want to write about something they don't know, they just make some stuff up and
I
then
know. I know.
present that as the reality.
That's
And
what
that
we.
was not the case. And I thought, well, if they're going to tell my story, I may as well be the one who does it and tell it accurately.
So being a producer put you in front, or sometime behind. But I know. But
Producing
what you.
more, you when you're producing, you're kind of coming up with the concept of saying, okay, what do we want these people to know from what we're producing? This is the information we want to give them, and we want to give them accurate information at all times. There's a lot of misconceptions about us,
Yes.
and those have been passed down for generations because nobody took the time to be bothered to find out
Find
the
out. That's
truth.
right.
So I just wanted to make sure you don't have to hunt for it. Here it is. This is the truth. This is the truth about us. And if it dispels what you were taught, then this is your opportunity to be educated and move forward in knowledge versus being, oblivious to the truth.
Well, that's good. And I can tell in your conversation, you have this presentation that you can, that might be appealing to some employees. But how did you just happen to land a job with what we deem was our number one source of
The
information,
iconic
and that was through the gospel programming? So how were you able to
God again.
God again?
My
You hear that a
brother
lot?
attended church with a lady who worked on the sister station. And
Okay.
so he said, "Oh, my sister has a degree in radio, TV, film, and she's trying to get back into it." And at the time, I think I was working at the airport. And so he took my resume to her. She took it to the woman who was the, the program director at the time. It took a minute. And then finally, I was on air. Now, the funny thing is, prior to coming to Heaven 97, I worked for a radio station in Kansas. And so I was a little spoiled because there I had a board up, and all I had to do was come and do my little spiel. Well, the money wasn't quite the same at Heaven 97. So, you had to run your own board and everything. So I had to relearn a little bit of that because I hadn't touched the
Wait,
board
let me
since I left
understand it. The
college.
money wasn't the same at Heaven 97.
Right. As far
Oh,
as equipment wise, of
okay.
what we
All
had.
right.
So
You didn't
some of
have.
the stuff
Okay.
was like, I said, "Oh, I haven't seen this kind of equipment since I
Oh.
was in college." And I'm like,
Okay.
"And we haven't." So it's, it was having to do my own board because they were like, oh, well, no, you won't got no board up here, baby. You got to do your own board. And I was like, what do you mean?
Wow.
But that's how I ended up there. I went there, started doing midday praise, and then Robert Ashley's show followed right after mine. So I produced his show, and it was just a lot of fun. Robert was like a big brother. He was, he had been in the business a long time. And so I really learned a lot from him as well. So that's my adventures at Heaven 97. And it was a great ride. I hate we're no longer here, but.
And we'll find that out why as we continue on our discussion. Okay, did you have to come when you first got started? Did you have to establish a personality, or were you conscientiously trying to create a personality that might be different from
my own personality? I'm usually private and very quiet, but I knew that wasn't going to fly on air. So I had to come out of my shell, and while I love to talk and everything, it was usually just privately. So I had to be able to open myself up a little bit, but I'm a big educator in that sense, and I thought, okay, if you're going to tell them the truth, you're going to have to tell them. You just can't sit back and let somebody else do it. So that kind of brought me out of my shell. My mother used to always say, you have all these talents, but you're just in your bedroom. Like I sing. I'm singing in the bedroom. She goes, oh no, people need to hear that.
She sings.
So she started putting my sister and I in pageants.
Okay.
That brought me out of my shell a lot, because you can't just stand up on the stage and look at the people and not sing.
Okay.
So that was her way of forcing me to step into my gifts.
Okay.
Won a lot of pageants. I was Miss Black Teenage of Nevada.
Wow.
Then participated in the state of Nevada's pageant for Miss
bet that
America.
was a more tedious task than being on the radio.
Well, you know what? It's a different world.
I can imagine.
It's a different world. I won a lot of local pageants and sing, but I always won the singing part.
And you didn't aspire to get...
Well, I wanted to be a singer. And then my mom said to me, she says, well, that's fine. Well, I misunderstood what she said. She said to me, if you want to be a singer, that's fine. But go ahead and find another skill just in case.
To fall back on.
Fall back on. Not that I wouldn't make it, because I had a great voice. I come from a singing family. So my dad and his brothers and sisters, they all sing. So singing was in my blood.
Okay.
But I detoured into broadcasting, but I kept singing in pageants and stuff
until
I went to college.
That's wonderful.
Now I got to get back into it. I've been away from it, and I need to get back into it. The vocal cords,
I'm quite sure you've kept those in shape.
I've tried to. They're a little rusty at times, and I'll hit a note and I'll be like, "Oh, darling, we need to
work
practice."
On that a little.
Yeah, so I'm ready. Those things brought me joy, so I'm ready to get back into that.
Okay, that's good. So I know you talk about your family a lot and how they were instrumental in helping to build and shape and mold your character. So where did this journey start for you? Did you start in Texas or another state?
Well, no, born in Corsicana, Texas, at my grandmother's house. My mom went to visit, and I decided, it's the end of the month. Let me just come on and
good time to start.
Me just come on and pop out right now. So. And then, so we grew up in Fort Worth until I was 4 years old. Then we moved to West Texas, San Angelo, which has been in the news lately because of the flooding going on. And then when I was in 6th grade, my mom married a military man, and we went to live in China for 3 years.
Fascinating. And I was for what length of time?
We lived in Taiwan for 3 years.
Okay.
And then the U.S. and China started having some issues, and they kicked us out of the country.
Oh.
But I learned a good lesson from my mother there. I remember when she was telling us we were going, we were looking at her like, we don't know anybody in China.
I know.
Why in the world
we don't know the language.
We don't know nothing. And she said something that I'll never forget. And then I've taught it to my daughter as well. My mother said, so tell me, who's going to get the better education? Your friends sitting in Texas reading about China, or my 3 little black children living in China every day? Never forgot that. She was so right. And so I remember saying, when I have kids, I'm going to make sure that they travel and get exposed, because the world is bigger than your own backyard. I know people who have not even left their city.
I know.
Let alone the state.
When I first came to Fort Worth, people in Fort Worth had not, a whole lot of people had not even visited Dallas.
I
said,
don't understand.
I didn't understand that either.
I mean,
But that's
natural.
what happens. That's the reality of
I
it.
think
That's what.
natural curiosity
Yeah.
would have made you venture at least to the
Yeah.
next block, if
Yeah.
nothing else. And so I've kind of taught my daughter that. And so she's, since she was a little baby, I've taken her on business trips with me to different places. She went to get her master's in London. I mean,
Okay.
so, and she wasn't afraid. She shocked me, as a matter of fact. I was like,
That's
what do you
wonderful.
mean you going to London? I said, when are you going? She goes, Mom, in August. Now, mind you, this was the month before. And I was like, what? Honey, she
That's
had
good.
figured it all out, stayed there for 2 years, got her master's, came back. Now she's in New Orleans in law school.
Okay. Y'all hear that? That's wonderful. God is in the blessing business. So I'm just getting back to this because it's stuck in my head. So how were you able to maneuver in Taiwan without knowing the language?
Well, that was the easiest part, I think. And my
Really?
mom
Really? I would have
said,
thought it was.
if we're going to be in it, we're going to be fully exposed in it. I can remember the very first day we arrived in Taiwan, to our place where we were staying until we were getting our housing. There was a street circus going on.
Okay.
And we were curious, and my mom said, okay, then let's go down. Here we are, these 4 people from Texas, my mom and her 3 kids, because my dad was at work. And we're down there with all these Chinese people watching a Chinese puppet play. Couldn't understand a word, but just the movement kind of gave us an idea. So I've always just because I don't know doesn't mean I don't know. I mean, I just got to get out there and get exposed to it.
That's
so
right.
that's how we navigated. We learned the language. Some
Did
of it
you?
enough
Okay.
to move
Enough
around,
to, yeah.
enough to move around and do.
And when you were in school, was that a difficult, or were you private?
School was very interesting because here we are coming from America. We had bought all our school clothes and we're going to wear. No. We ended up at a Catholic school where you had to wear a uniform. Oh my goodness! But what was interesting was my classmates at this Catholic school were not your normal classmates. These were kids one of my friends at this school, his grandfather was the president of Panama. We had diplomats, kids, and all this stuff. These were not just like regular everyday school kids, And when I was in the U.S., right before we went to China, there was a teacher who came and she started speaking French, and I thought, oh my goodness, what French? Magic is that's coming out of her mouth? I want to learn that. So I learned a little bit, but then we went to China. That's where I learned my French. Was in China.
Oh, really? Okay.
The French teacher told me the first day, she says, there's just one thing. She says, we do not speak English in this class. This is the only time I'm going to speak English to you. Catch up. And then it was French from then on. And I was sitting there going, okay, this is not the French I learned in Texas, but I better hurry up and learn if I'm going to make my A.
And that was a Catholic school.
It was a Catholic school, nuns, the whole 9 yards, priest. It was very different.
Okay. So they catered to your particular interest, religious interest, or did they have?
No, they were
various.
It was a Catholic school, and you went to mass. I learned about mass and all of that stuff, all about the Catholic religion.
So in Taiwan, that's a popular religion.
Well,
Catholicism.
For that particular school.
Okay, I got you.
Because it was a Catholic school. It was run by nuns and fathers. It was
but there were other religions.
There was an American school there as well.
Okay.
But the best school on the island was the Dominican school, the Catholic school. So yeah, that's how we all started out. And then my brother struggled a little bit, so he ended up transferring to the American school. But for us, me, my sister, and I, it was fully engulfed in it. Just we had no choice.
Okay, that's an interesting journey. It
was.
Everything helps to mold and shape us and
you learn about a lot of different things. There was such a diversity of students.
Yeah, it had to be. I can imagine.
Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Portugal. I mean, it was a plethora, for lack of a better word. It was just a little mini United Nations.
That's wonderful. Make me think how I was deprived. I only had. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm so interested in other people's experience. It made me think I was there.
Well, it's funny to me because, I had this misconception that, when you're in Catholic school, you're straight-laced and you don't get in trouble. Oh, darling, they're worse than public school kids. But, it was on a different scale.
Yeah.
Like, what? You got little sixth graders. They're coming to school because they're
Do
being
look
driven in
okay.
Mercedes and all
Kids
that
are
stuff.
kids.
Yeah, but they did stuff just like. Actually, they did some stuff we probably didn't even think of doing in public school.
Wow.
They're blowing up
And that's what
toilets with
drove you
cherry
to
bombs.
where you are now. And I'm not gonna discuss that one right now because I know you serve at the international school
I
where I
do.
do too. So
I
we'll talk
do
about that
now.
later.
Yep.
But it helped
Awesome.
to
Yeah.
help to you to get a full understanding of mixtures
Yes.
of different cultures.
Cultures.
That
Absolutely.
is, that is.
Absolutely.
That's why you
Absolutely.
okay. We'll get it right. Okay, in your area, and just being this personality, were there often any feedback from the audience or the listeners, negative or positive, or
You get both. Here's the thing I have with now, mind you, born and raised in Texas, right? But every day I have to remind people that I was because they're like, "Oh no, you weren't born here. You sound like you're from the West Indies or something." I've not even been to the Caribbean yet. I'm trying. That's on my bucket list. I'm gonna get there.
all right, all right.
But I have had people argue me down and say, "You're not from Texas. You don't have that Texas twang." And I said, "Well, I never did. I've never had it. I don't understand what that is. I just speak the way I speak." So, those are the challenges I had. And I've had times when people have called on the phone to the radio station and they presume I'm a Caucasian woman. And then
Okay.
they come into the station asking for me. And then I show up and they're like, "Oh." And I said, "Oh, I recognize that. But you'll get over it. You'll get over it. I really, really am her." And then I overhear stuff like, "Well, you don't talk black." And I said,
I know
what
they have this
is
stereotypical
talking
idea
black?
about
I
yeah,
said, "I speak proper English just like you
yeah.
do. I don't understand why you think there's a distinction about how we speak because some of y'all don't, y'all's English is not all that great either sometimes." You see, I've learned to say y'all because usually
Yeah.
I say you guys. And
Yeah.
a lady called in my station one time. She goes, "Well, you're talking to a woman. They're not a guy." I said, "No, ma'am, that's not what I mean when I say you guys. You guys is the whole group,
Okay,
male to
that's right.
female."
That's right. Okay.
So I've had to learn to try to say y'all a little bit more than you guys.
Okay. And I have a southern dialect because I'm from Alabama. And so people from Texas can usually tell from the way I talk, but this little droll. But there used to be a time when we wanted to get things done expeditiously.
Yeah.
We had to get on the phone and sound a little different than what we
I
know.
just have,
We say hello. I
yeah, well,
mean,
I just have
that was just
always sound.
normal.
I've always sounded this way. It's really funny. One of my listeners, when we went to do a public event, she says, "You know what? You sound the same in person as you do on radio." And I thought, what a strange concept. But then I understood what she said. Sometimes people sound a little bit differently. I'm what you see is what you get. What you hear is what you hear. It's never changed. It's never, like I said, I don't know what they meant when they said talking black because I said, well, all the people in my family talk like this, so I'm not quite sure what you're relating to, what you're
Well, see,
referring
that's what I
to.
was trying to say. I might not have known what that meant
Mm-hmm.
until we knew when we had to get a different kind of response
Mm-hmm.
from somebody on the other end. We knew how to talk white. We said, is
Right,
that so? We
right.
knew. So I guess that's in contrast to what we would have. But maybe they know how to talk. I don't know. Black. I don't know.
I
But
would
you
say I
probably
would say
don't know.
demonstrate for me because I don't understand what you're saying. And then they start. I said, "Oh, so what you're saying is, there's a slang. Every generation has a slang." No, I don't
Oh
speak
yeah,
slang.
yeah.
I don't necessarily have to. I mean, either you can understand what I'm saying or you
Oh,
can't.
you can't. Okay, just
So
that. I get what you're saying. Okay, what about you constructive criticism? Did you ever get anything that sort of took you for a loop that you thought maybe you needed to make changes or maybe you could present it differently? Did you ever hear let me pose that question differently. Were there any I would say destructive criticism or comments that you thought that
that comes with the territory.
it
I mean,
does?
there's going to be some people who I don't care what you say, what you do, they're not going to like nothing
That's
you
true.
say. They're going
That's
to
true.
complain because they have nothing better to
But
do.
it takes some growing and maturity to know that because when you first hear it, it doesn't take its toll on your.
Well, this business is you can't take it personal.
Well,
You
see,
really
you would have grown. You grew
well, it's not
from
even
your
so much about
experience.
growing. It's either if you let everything that everyone says impact you, then
That's
you
right.
don't do the job that you're
You're
there to
right.
do.
You're right. You're
So you
right.
have to stay focused.
You're right.
If that's their opinion, that's their opinion. My mother used to
Okay.
have a saying, I won't say it because it has one little cuss word in it, but I won't
They don't
say
mind. No, I'm just kidding. I
it.
don't
But
know
she
what
used to
part of
say,
your life.
opinions are like
Okay.
bottoms. Everybody's got one.
Well, see that. Well, see that's good. Then she molded and shaped you to understand
That my
that.
opinion was most important.
Okay.
Didn't matter
So
what anyone else thinks. What you think of yourself is most
that's right.
important
That's
because
right.
you're who you have to answer to.
Okay.
And some people can just look at you and not like you. They don't know why. It's
That's true.
something in
In
them.
them,
So it's not
the
me. You have
problem
to
is
remember that it's
them.
not me.
That's true.
And sometimes people will disagree with my opinion on something. That's fine. We all have opinions. Express yours.
Yeah.
We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't think people understand. Either you're going to think my way or not at all.
I
Well,
know.
I
That's
think
true.
my
That's true.
way,
That's right.
and I'm
And we can walk
respecting
away.
yours.
You
Yeah,
have your opinion. I have mine. And
and
you know what
those
mine is.
opinions are formed by how we were brought up.
That is. You're right.
So
You're right.
that's part of that
That's
person's
right.
DNA, their culture. So you really can't change that. I mean, people can get enlightened and then say, "Oh yeah, well, what I learned, I didn't know. Now I know." So because when you know better, you do better. That's what Miss Maya Angelou said. When you know better, you do better, and that's important. That when you do know better, don't keep doing stupid stuff. Do
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But are there times where you had to come up with I mean, okay, on your broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
you said you had sometime live conversations or people were
Most
calling you?
times, yeah. Uh-huh,
Oh,
uh-huh.
most time.
Yeah.
So were there times where you had to really give some deep thought into a question that might have been posed to you that if in hindsight you could have responded differently
Well,
or
you when you are interviewing or when someone's talking to you, you have to keep in mind the field you're playing on. It depends on what that person is after as to the question they'll ask you in order to goat you. I don't goat easily.
okay.
I you can ask your question. I'm going to answer it the way I answer, and then that's going to be it. If you don't like what I answered, that's not on me. That's on you because you asked the question. I gave you the answer. You didn't get the answer you expected. Not
So
my
you
issue.
never got into a confrontation and then when they kept on you pressed the
But I've had to on Robert's show.
I'm
I've had to.
sorry.
Sometimes people want to call and argue, and I'm like, okay, you are wasting our airtime.
Okay.
Say what you have to say. This is not for debate. You're entitled to your opinion, but you can't take up all the airtime. You're sucking
Okay.
up all the air.
That's right. That's
So
right.
and there's a point when, and I've warned them because I'm pretty. I said, okay, we've heard you, we've said you. I'm going to cut you off. I got another caller on the line, and I just let them go. Like we used to have a gentleman who used to call every single day during Robert's show, and he just MT just would just that was his thing. He sat and listened and called in on all the radio stations, and he used to always start really good, and then he would always get to a point where he started downing
Oh,
us, and I don't go for that. You don't
okay.
get to. And one day I just kind of politely snapped and said, "Look, you have your opinion of what we do." I said, but not all black people do that. I said, and when you insinuate that that's how the majority of us are, that's what puts us at a disadvantage. I said, learn your own history before you start telling me, he used to say, well, the Jamaicans stick together. I said, well, do you not think we didn't have that same concept when we were brought
Okay.
to this country?
That's
We
right.
all have it.
Yeah.
I mean, we
That's
may not all do it, but we all have it. So yeah, I've had to have some confrontations with some people, but I've always been polite. I've always been nice because I don't have to act stupid, but I'm just gonna say I do have the control of the finger to push the button. So
okay. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I can just say,
That's
we're done
good.
with
You
that
knew how
topic.
to pivot on that. Considering the changes in the landscape of how they do radio now.
Yes, it's changing every
Okay.
day.
Yeah, it is. It is a whole different type
All this new
technology. Even
technology. Oh,
even
wow, I'm
even the
trying to
social
keep up.
media
Yeah, I'm
concept
trying to keep
that
up.
wasn't part of what you were used to.
Well,
Uh,
oh Lord, do I tell my age here? I'm almost. I mean, I learned on.
if you tell your age, you tell mine because I'm older. So
uh,
we're
but
not telling age.
the technology changes so fast and you really have to keep up with it. And so if you step away from it just for even a small amount of time, when you come back, everything is foreign to you. So I'm always trying to be around people who work the boards and stuff because I need to know this technology. I don't always know it, and I don't always, because I'm strictly a talk show host, my job is talking. I
It's
don't do
just
the
talking.
other
You don't do that.
mechanics of it.
Yeah,
Didn't have to, but I think it's important to know it. I
it
still wouldn't
is.
want to do. It took me a long time to become a radio person where you did music. I had other opportunities to do that. I didn't want to do it. I was a talk show host. I wanted to be serious. I wanted to talk about those things. But that little stint at Heaven 97 was fun because I was like, okay, so now I'm a DJ. All right. Okay, this wasn't as bad as I thought, but I avoided DJ for a long time.
So, if you're a DJ, what are you doing? You
You're
putting
putting in the music and you're talking
okay,
about the artists that are coming up and you're telling
okay.
stuff, and that was
You
fine.
scratching the records? No,
But
you're not doing that. Excellent.
well,
You just
no,
put
I
on the
didn't
music.
scratch.
You just
But you're
put on the
playing
music.
music and you're talking to the people who make the music and that kind of stuff, and that was fine because it still let me be a talk show host. And
Okay.
that's what I was. That
Oh,
was
that
my
was
major
fun.
training. It was
I would
being a
not
talk
doing that.
show host. I mean, I've talked to all kinds of people around the world. I mean, ambassadors, and also for me that was interesting because for me that was a learning experience. I love learning about people and their culture. I don't just want to know your name and what you do. I need to know what your people do, what your culture is. I need to know the whole person. And being a talk show host allowed me to do that. Whereas being a DJ doesn't always do that because the focus is on music.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, that's good. So we'll talk about the technology too. I'm just gonna. I'm a little snippet of. I know KHVN. They had a little incident. I'm telling. This is my
oh, are
really,
you going to talk
really,
about the famous fight?
really. Our
Funny.
time couldn't be up. Okay. Hey, now just now the famous fight. Okay, for
Yes.
all of you social media family on KHVN, which is the same radio show that Sherry Smith worked on. I was just wondering if you were part. They had a little dispute with the county commissioners.
It was,
There were
and
two.
funny enough, I got my job right after that dispute because the young woman who was the
You
hold
did?
up at the time, she was the one who filmed it and put it out there. She got fired, and I
Wait,
ended up
wait,
getting the
wait. You
position
got your job
right
after
after
this
that.
dispute.
Immediately after that happened,
So the lady who
the
put the
young woman who was in there being the producer put this out on Facebook for some reason,
it was
and
so
she got
interesting,
fired.
y'all.
It was
It
very
was terrible
interesting.
in that it shed a negative light on our community because you had these two black officials, prominent, in the Dallas area, and they get on the show, and
Bringing their private business to a
yeah,
public
bringing the private
arena,
to the
and
and
they
then
didn't
they
handle it
arguing
well.
and
Well, they did
it
more
got
than
it
argue.
got shady. I thought
From the video I saw, they did more than argue.
I
But
knew they were hitting at one another, but I didn't know they were trying to. I didn't know they made contact, but
well, you
I
people were
didn't. They didn't see.
separated.
That's
From what
yeah.
I saw of
That
the
it didn't
video.
make sense, when we think about the outcome. But the thing about it, I didn't know how in your imagination you think, is this staged? Is this for publicity? And you said you got your job right
Right
afterwards,
after
so
that, yeah, I
that was
became
good.
yeah,
See,
because the
you
young
got that
woman.
opening, that door open for her, that open for her again.
Yeah, it was a bad time. It was a bad time for
It was a bad
that to
time
happen.
for. It was a
It was a
really
bad, it
bad
was a
time.
negative scene to happen. But then you have to understand
We
too,
do not have to do
politicians.
that.
Well, politicians are just like everybody else. They get under a lot of pressure. Sometimes their temper snap, particularly when they're in opposition. If your opposition is there, there's going to be some heat there, and theirs just kind of boiled over before anyone was really prepared for that. So they kind of got it under control, reminded them where you are. You're still addressing the public, even though they cannot see you, they can hear you. So that happened right before I got there. But
Okay, that's good
I
because I
did
was
hear
going to
about
ask
it.
you how were you impacted, but I see how you were impacted. You got that. That's good. You got
Well,
that. That was a blessing.
I
That
felt
door
like,
opened for you.
well, and because we already have a hard time getting into those positions where
Yeah, I
we can
know.
make a difference. There's a certain decorum that you need to have. You have an obligation.
An
You stand
obligation.
on the
I just
shoulders of people who fought and died for
tell
you
me
to be
about it.
there. So you have to
That's right.
that's how
That's
I
right.
live. That's how I was taught, that it's a given. Whatever gifts you have, you must give to the community because someone died for you to be able to do that. So I don't take that lightly. Same as I've trained my daughter, you are obligated to pay those ancestors back
That's
because
right.
had it
Somebody.
not been for them,
That's right.
you wouldn't be able to do what you do
Somebody
now.
paved the way
And you
for you
pay it
to get
forward.
here, so you
Your
pay
way
that
of
forward.
paying it forward
That's
is
right.
giving your gifts to the world,
That's
being
good.
the best you can being honorable, have integrity, have character,
All right.
and inspire somebody else to do the same.
That's wonderful. I was wondering. That was original question I had actually. Did that incident have anything to do with the show being taken off there, or
No, the station was not
the
taken off.
station?
The
Okay.
station was taken off because the gentleman who owned it became very elderly. He was in his 90s.
Okay.
And he had children, two children who knew the business, one who was not so crazy about the business but kind of knew it. The two children who knew the business did not want to take it over.
Okay.
So the son who really didn't know it kind of took it over.
Was
But
it
that
an
really was not
African
his.
American man that owned it, or
No,
a white guy?
now that was a
A white.
misconception for a long time.
Yeah.
I did not realize it. No, this gentleman was a Caucasian gentleman.
Okay. All right.
He did own it, but the face of the station was black.
Okay.
That sometimes you see that advertising now. Everybody thinks the black woman at Popeyes owns Popeyes. She does not.
Okay.
So that's
The
a way.
face of it. Well,
If
when
you
it was
want
important to create that balance because of years of injustice, it's not important with
it
DEI.
depends on the demographic you want to reach.
It's-
If so, you must make your product look like something that they need. So if you had seen all white people on Heaven 97, would listen to it as much as you saw black faces, because that was the demographic
So that
they
was
wanted to
his
get.
purpose.
They
Okay.
wanted to get black listeners. That
Okay.
was important. They knew gospel was our
Yeah.
thing. That's deeply rooted in us. And so then
Just like Tubi TV show. Tubi. That's their focus. That's another story for another time. I'll tell y'all Facebook family about that one. But I see what you're
But yeah,
saying. I see what you mean.
But anyway, he was getting up in age and his health was failing, and so he just decided to sell the station.
Okay.
And
So he sold it to whom?
Well, from what I understand, that station just went away altogether.
Okay.
But they're now under new management, and KGGR, which was the sister station, is now doing some of the things that Heaven 97 used to do, because KGGR used to be strictly ministry and not a whole lot of music. Now they're beginning to take on the music portion that Heaven 97 used to do and do that with KGGR. It's been a minute since I've been at this station. I went to visit recently. It's completely changed, all new equipment. I was so excited about that. All that bulky stuff is gone, and now they have these little things. So now I'll have to learn some new technology. Everybody keeps saying I should go back, and I think I might pursue that. I think
good.
I'm ready
That's good. Don't make yourself irrelevant. That's right. Keep doing things. But on that same station is I don't know what it is, but it's Heaven. It's not Heaven 97, but it's Station 97 AM, and it tells the black viewers. It's a station for what's going on.
It's when our station went away, the Black News Network came in, and it's a piped in, it's fed in, it's not local, it's recorded, but that's what
it's not local.
It's not local. That's what took up that space. Some of the programming that may come in through it,
but it's for the black community.
Well, it's because
that's what
it's black.
saying.
I think it's called the Black Network News or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. I always wanted to know. I said, wait a minute, this is not KHVN, but it is catering to this community. If you
go to the same dial where we were located, you now have that it's a streamed in service. From what I understand, it's like I said, it's been a minute. I haven't been at the station since COVID happened.
That's good.
So,
okay.
So,
Oh, that's interesting for how COVID affected it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now these are questions that people are sending to me, and I do too. Okay, what skills do you think are essential for a successful radio host?
Liking people.
Okay,
and being interested in their lives.
That's
and
right.
What impacts them.
Okay.
In other words, being nosy. You got to be a little nosy.
Sometimes it's good to be nosy.
Because they have a story to tell.
That's right.
And so you
That's
need to
right.
help them tell that story.
That's right.
At least that's how I look at it.
That's right.
So
That's a good
I'm
way.
nosy. I want to know all about your people,
Yeah.
what you do, because probably someone who's listening may be in the very same position that you in. That's going to be helpful to
That's
them.
right.
So they understand they're not alone.
That's
They're
right.
not
That's
the only
good.
one
That's
going
good.
through that or interested in that. So helping people tell their stories and being able to just sit and talk like you were sitting at home talking to people on a couch. You know, when people used to come into my show, they get intimidated by the microphones. And I used to say, ignore those microphones. Just look at me and talk to me like we're just sitting at home talking. Now, my show was an hour long, and they kept saying, I can't talk for an hour. Little did they know, the hour flew by, and then they're like, oh, we're done? Absolutely. So putting
That's what I
people
thought you
at
were saying.
ease,
What you said.
putting people at ease is that's the first thing you do. Put
It
them at
is.
ease
Make it.
enough
Put
to
them at
make them
ease.
talk so
That's
they'll
right.
open up.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's true. Because people do have
Yeah.
stories
Because
to
when you're
tell.
tense and tight, you don't want to talk. You don't know what to say.
Sometimes
Right.
you just all you want is somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And since you, like you said, being willing to
Yeah.
listen,
Just put
that's
them
real
at
good.
ease so that they're freely tell their story. You're
That's
not
right.
pulling it out of them. They're sharing because they need the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's I like that. Okay. Another question. What is your process for selecting guests for your shows?
Oh, my process is really very easy for me. Again, I'm nosy, but I always want to bring forward what's going on in the
Okay.
news at the time so that we can have our own perspective of it and our own get an understanding of what's happening, but also things that interest me that I'm sure other people might be interested in. Sometimes I hear people talk and I said, you know what, I might need to do a show about that. So I love the gambit. There's so much to know,
It is.
and
It
I
is.
think
It
everybody
is.
needs to get enough
I
knowledge
like
where we know a little bit about everything. You can be dangerous. That's okay. That's okay.
that.
But
That's right.
so I try to find current events that we can talk about, but then I also want to talk about things that affect people on a personal side. You
Okay.
know, how to balance your money, how to start financing. I mean, how to
That's
become a
good. That's
homeowner,
interesting.
because there are lots of barriers that keep us from doing that. So we have to know how to get around those barriers.
Yeah.
And so my thing is things that interest me, things that I hear other people that interest. I want to make sure that the people who are listening to me are informed. So when
Yeah.
they go and make decisions about whatever else they're going to do,
That's
they're like
right.
they've got
They got the
quality
information behind them.
informed
That's right.
information. Yes.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like those answers. That's good. Okay. How do you tailor your communication style to different audiences?
Well, that's again for getting a feel for the audience when you first in, or even getting a feel for guests when they come in. Now, I had an incident one time when I was at my station in Kansas that was very, very sensitive to me. And I'm not real fake. I try. I don't have a good poker face. What you see is what you get. If my face say, look, it may be talking and I'm not even aware that it's talking sometimes. But one of the shows that we used to have on my our station then was the Rush Limbaugh show. And if you know who Rush Limbaugh
I
is,
do know who
racist.
Rush Limbaugh
Oh well,
is.
so
I
sometimes
do.
those people would come to our station. Rush Limbaugh, there used to be
Wait.
the Birch Nation, whatever, And
Mm.
so my boss, knowing me, mind you, in my radio station, I was the only African American there. The
Oh.
gentleman who I took my show from, he was the only African American first. He retired. I watched him, trained, and then I took over his show, which was taped. But the show got to be so well being taped, people were calling in and they would have to tell him, well, she's not here. That was just taped. So I asked, may I take it live?
Okay.
And they said, you think you can do it? Nothing to do but to try it. Took it live. It was a big hit. But Rush Limbaugh was coming to the station. My boss,
How
general
interesting.
manager, had the wherewithal to come and sit down to me and say, how do you feel about that? And I said, well, I can tell you right now, don't ask me to do anything for this gentleman because I'm not going to be doing that willingly. Don't ask me to go against my beliefs to accommodate this
Okay.
person. I can't
All
do
right.
it.
I like
And so
that.
he was like, well, you don't even have to come work that day if you don't want to.
Okay.
I said, oh, no, I'm not running.
That's right.
But I'm not.
You just
Hey,
being honest.
I'm
You
going to be here.
let it be known up
The
front.
gentleman came through.
That's
He
right.
spoke with his arrogant self.
Okay.
It was actually a swoosh past me. And I was just like, okay, well, you guys can kowtow to the man. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to
Okay.
stay back. I'm going to watch now. Need to see what he's talking about because I might be talking about it on my show
So
next.
he was just a guest
He physically came to our show. Yes,
as a
he was
guest.
on a promotional tour or something he was on. So he came to another show. He came to
Wow.
another show, not mine. He wasn't going to be on mine,
Okay.
but he was on the other woman who had a talk show there, and they let him spiel his
Okay.
rhetoric,
All
and
right.
I wasn't going to be a party to that,
Okay.
and I was grateful to
So
have
it
a.
was best for you not to make a comment behind,
Oh,
or or
well, it was best that my general manager talked to me because he knew I
that.
wasn't
Okay.
going to
All right.
hold
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
opinion. So we wanted to make it
And they didn't
comfortable
want you
for
to offend the
everybody. We wanted to,
guests.
well, yeah, and we
Well,
wanted to
they should have
be
known what type of rhetoric he was gonna spew.
well, you know, if
So
you say it, then
you were the only
expect that
black person
somebody's
there.
going to
You were the only
respond.
black person
Yeah,
there.
and I'm going to
Okay.
get you educated in the right way. You know,
Educate them.
I'm uneducated.
Educate them.
I'm going to educate you. I've been doing it
You
my
got
whole
to
life.
educate 'em.
When we came from Taiwan, my sister and brother and I were probably there was maybe 6 African Americans in the whole school.
Okay.
Educated there. Had to
All
educate
right.
because there was a misconception. Those people now
Yeah.
are some of my best friends for
Yeah.
years since I was in high
Yeah.
school. Now we're still keep in touch.
Okay. That's
But we had to
good.
educate them because some misconceptions were there.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have to let
That's
tell people
my job is
our
to
story and make
educate
them
you
understand.
and bring you out of your ignorance when it comes to what you
All
know
right.
about us.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Not from a television screen. That's
Absolutely.
you're very important to this world, especially this space.
Well, it's the little
Tell
light
that
that I
story.
have, and so I'm gonna let it shine.
Okay. All right. All right. That's good. That's
It's
right.
the
That's
little
right.
light I have, so
That's
I'm gonna let
right.
it shine.
Okay. If you could engage in conversation with 4 historical people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Uh, Historical. Harriet Tubman,
Okay. And why?
because you're talking about a young woman who had no educational anything, but had the wherewithal, something that was buried deep in her inside her said, "This is not how I'm supposed to exist."
All right.
And this is not how we are supposed to exist.
All right.
So if somebody's going to do it, why not me?
Okay.
This is a woman who traveled across the country not knowing how to read or do any of those things. But she did what she did.
Yeah.
And if it had
Had the
not been for her,
courage to go ahead
she
and
said,
move, step
liberty or
forward.
death, she's going to have death or
That's
she's going to
right.
have freedom.
That's
One
right.
of the two.
That's right.
And then she stood on that.
That's
10 toes
right.
down,
That's
as my
good.
daughter would say, 10 toes down on that. I would also love to speak to Phyllis Wheatley
Okay.
because she was a writer.
Okay.
She was a young woman who wrote and wrote so well that she was questioned. The articles and stories that she read, people used to think that someone else wrote it and she was taking credit for it. That
okay.
kind of bravery during that time
Yeah.
is amazing. See, I love strong black women.
Yeah.
I love strong black women who see what's ahead of them, know it might be hard, but this is their
That's right.
determination. I'm
That's
either going to
right.
go through it,
That's right.
over it, under it,
Yeah.
or
That's
around it,
right.
but I'm going through.
That's right.
That's past. That's what the ancestors and all of that give you.
Yeah.
That's your
You have an
that's your
assignment.
duty.
You have a charge.
You have an
Go for it.
assignment.
You can't
Everybody
think of
comes
all
with
the
an
reasons
assignment.
why not.
Absolutely.
Just make a move, star.
I'd also love to speak with Frederick Douglass for this reason. This is
Okay.
a controversial man. Keep in mind that during a time when slavery and all that, this man was married to a white woman.
Okay.
That dynamic during that time had to be off the chain.
I can imagine. I can
had
imagine.
to be off the chain.
Yeah.
So I would love just to.
And then he's still speaking out for his community, and he knew.
So how did he balance that?
How did he balance that?
Yes, there were Caucasian people who were working with us to get us to freedom, and maybe that's where that came from. That she understood his work because he'd gone through it. So he would be one, and then just a more modern who just recently died, who I absolutely love, would just love to sit down. I fangirl and lose my whole mind, and that would have been Maya Angelou.
I know.
Met her one time in DC, and when I say fangirl, then lost my whole mind. Lost my
You know,
whole
I
mind.
didn't realize how important she was until after she died. And when they started going back and recapping all the things that she had, even some of the stories,
Well, see, people know her as a writer and a
Yeah,
but
I
she used to be a
know.
dancer. She was a
Oh, see, I
dancer.
didn't
She
know.
was Maya Angelou was way ahead of her time, especially
Oh,
for a
wow.
child who didn't speak for 5 years. Because of what,
Oh,
that's why I know why the Cage Bird sing. That's her life story. That's her story. She didn't speak for five
and
years
it's banned
because
in
she
some
understood.
places.
She said the reason she did because she understood the power of words. The fact that she had said that a man had done something caused another man to lose his life. That power of words is something that we all need to be aware of because our words do have power. That's why it's important to choose them carefully.
It is.
It's
It
important to
is.
choose them carefully. It's important to stand behind what you are saying. It's important to say those words with integrity. So those are some of the people. There's a whole long other list
That's
of folks I'd
great.
love to
Those
read
are
as well.
great.
I'd like to just go back in history and just see some folks.
Oh wow, that's
I'd
wow.
love.
I just want to go back and learn. Like I said, I didn't know about a whole lot of things, contributions she had made, even getting into her the literary side of her. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I had. But even
Very
afterwards,
active in
I'm
civil
sorry.
rights. Very active in the civil rights
No.
movement.
Oh,
Just
that
a
is
force to be
wonderful.
reckoned with, and
And
she
can
did
you
it quietly.
imagine her book is on the banned book list? Can you
Well,
imagine?
any book that is going to tell you about your history is on the banned list right now. That's why it's
It's
important to
unfortunate.
have your own library of it. When I was a kid growing up, we learned very early. It's really funny because when people used to see our mom, they used to think our mother was white. Well, she wasn't. Both of her parents were black. She just happened to be fair skinned. But mother, this was a light skinned woman whose eyes changed three colors throughout the day. She'd start with hazel in the morning, in the afternoon they were gray, and at night they were cat green. But people would be surprised when she come to pick up her kids, and here comes me and my little sister and brother, this little chocolate babies coming to them. They're like, "What in it?" And she used to tell them all the time, "You can mess with me all day long,
Okay.
but don't mess with my little
All
three
right.
black children."
Okay.
And so her pride in being black, even though she was fair skinned, was just something she passed to us. Never ever be. She used to teach us. She said, if you are going to dislike someone, let it be something more substantial than the color of their skin.
Okay.
That's the least you should worry about. And I've always
We
kept that
need
with me.
to put emphasis on that
If
with
you are
this.
going to dislike or hate somebody,
Yeah.
make it for something more substantial than the color of their skin. My
Yeah.
mom is really, really fair skinned. My daddy was really chocolate
Yeah.
chocolate.
Yeah.
And he almost lost his life one time. He
Yeah.
was driving truck. My mom decided to go with him. They were in Louisiana. These white men thought that my father had a white woman in his truck
Yeah.
because she was taking her hair down. It was kind of blondish. I mean, she's light skinned. And they hoisted my daddy up against his truck, talking about, boy, what you doing with this white woman? And my
Okay.
father said, what are you talking about? They said,
Wow.
you got away. He said, man, that's my wife, and she is a black woman.
Okay.
And my mama said,
So
get
all
us
those
up out of
things,
Louisiana.
all those things impact the way we think about this colorism stuff, even in our own
Mm-hmm.
race. We have to work on that
But
and get away from
I always
the
say, y'all,
idea.
my mama's them things and my granny's them things. But my mother used to say this: Black people are like a rose garden. You have every color from the white rose to the black rose and
You
everything
do.
in between, and the whole
Okay.
garden is
That's right.
beautiful.
That's right. That's right.
So my sister's fairer than I
Yeah.
am.
We know the history that even if you're black in America, that you mixed with a variety of things. And if they could take a DNA, some of the darker people might have more and less African DNA than So it doesn't even matter because that's what makes you part of the history. And if you go back and learn your history, you know how it all started.
Well, everybody comes from a black woman.
Oh, okay. She's
Every
going deeper than I was
everybody.
going.
Well, I mean,
She's going.
science has
That
proven
is
this.
pride. Science
Has
is.
proved
Oh
it
no, even the
that
Garden
what
of
is it, the
Eden.
myoidal, whatever it is,
Um,
a black woman
what?
can make every other race. Not every other race can make a black woman. Period.
Okay.
So all of the blueprint is from an African American woman. Eve was a black
You
woman.
hear
I don't
that,
want
y'all?
her
Y'all
back.
hear that, Facebook
You
family and
may as
friend?
well
It is what it
just
is.
hey, truth is truth. I'm gonna tell you,
Okay.
Eve was a black woman, and I don't want to get too
I'm at work.
controversial, but Jesus. Now let's just think about this for a minute. If you do your history, you cannot be that close to the equator
Okay.
and be fair skinned and blue eyed. Just not
I
gonna
know. I
happen. You're gonna
know.
be melanated until you
And
can't be
it's
melanated anymore.
unfortunate that you have this picture, this image that someone created, and I can go through the history. I
Well,
know
but
about.
that was a way of that was part of the plan of slavery too. That if they knew that we believed in God, then they needed to make God look like them so that they could have control. So that's orchestrated. That was deliberate.
Wait, let me
Because if
absorb what you're saying. Let me internalize. Say that again.
so if they know that we have a strong belief in God
Hmm.
and they need to control us and control our
Oh, got you.
mindset,
I
then
got you. I
the
got you.
God
I
had
got
to
you. I
look
got
like
you.
them,
Okay.
because the contrary to that would be this: if they acknowledged that God was indeed a black man, which he
Hmm.
was, and you say you're a white person who's a Christian and you are demeaning that,
Okay.
how do you reconcile that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
right.
you just have to know your history. You can't be in those Saharian places and be fair. I
And we
mean, I
all have our
suppose you
views,
could.
and
I
the
suppose you
views that we
could.
have are not aligned totally with Forest Hill Library. Let me make sure that we say
Yes,
that
I'm not
they're
speaking on
not. She's not speaking on behalf of our. But
these are
these are
my
just views, and these are just
these are
her
views of the
observation and
guest.
her opinion and
Yes.
her facts, her facts
Hmm.
that she knows them. So, all right, that's
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
And I even
That's why it's
had.
important to know your history.
It's very important to know your history. To know your history help you to grow and develop.
Well, it also makes you understand who you are and what your capabilities are. Sometimes when I'm working with young people and they say to me, "Well, I can't do math," and I look at them, I said, "Of course you can. Your people invented it." And I said, "And how do you?" I said, "You know what the pyramids are, right?" They say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "Well, the pyramids were built and they have nothing attaching them. There's no mortar, there is no wires or whatever. It is they're mathematically weighted. The bricks are
Yeah,
mathematically weighted so that they don't
that's
move.
interesting. That is.
That's
That
that's
is. That is.
all we
All
were
of it
doing
is
all these things while other folks were still in caves drawing stick
okay.
people. We
Okay.
were already dynasties, and this is the history that they don't want you to know, because if you know where you come from,
All right.
then you know where you are obligated to go.
Okay.
And if somebody can
And
construe you on your
yeah,
path, that's why you got to be real mindful and know exactly who you are and what you're
yeah,
capable of. You know, Brilliant. A lot of what America has for comfort were created by people of color. And it was
yeah,
because we were the ones who had to do the work and we had to find a
yeah.
way to make it
Make it
easier.
easier. That's right.
So they took the claim for it because we could not.
Okay.
First of all, if they knew we were reading and doing all that,
Oh,
somebody
that
was
was
going to be
one of the
dead.
main things to make sure that
Yeah,
we were
somebody was
not
going to be
able to
dead because
read.
you weren't supposed to do that. You were not supposed to be able to do that.
We were not able to read, but we learned.
Hmm.
And some people thinking that we're not gonna be able to come from under this what we feel is a dark cloud, but
Right,
we
and
will.
some of us read
How you doing?
before we read. We could always read. We just didn't read English because that was not our culture.
Okay,
We were
all right.
always able to
That's a good
read.
point. That's right.
It's
That's
just that it
right.
was
What
not
was
our
in our
culture.
language? That's
And
right.
then when we came here, and because we are quick to learn, we are people who can adapt
That's
quickly
right.
for
That's
survival
right.
purposes. So when we did learn to read, we weren't going to let you know we could read because
Okay.
we're not trying to die.
Okay.
But there
That's
were
right.
those who
It's a
said, "Oh, I'm
matter
going
of
to teach you in secret," and sometimes we were teaching them.
yeah, yeah.
But you don't hear that part. That's why I
No, you
say
don't hear that part. That's
that's
why
why it's
you're
important
sir.
for us to keep
We
telling
got to
our
keep telling
story,
it.
keep
Keep
telling it,
telling it.
keep it alive, and keep telling it factually.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
That those are interesting things. We just could go on and on forever about that and enlighten people. Okay, what advice would you give to those who want to pursue a career in becoming a radio host?
I would say if broadcasting is a big thing, so there's all kinds of things you can do. You can do radio, you can do television, you can do film. You have to figure out what it is you think you'll be most comfortable with. You'll also, I say, learn all three because that just gives you more tools in your arsenal. But you have to understand the power of the media and how you're going to impact that. So I would say take a class or two just to get a feel for it. And then you'll
Okay.
quickly find out whether it's for you or not. It's not, people think, oh, everybody in radio is making big money. Baby, I'm here to tell you, you're going to start with some crumbs. The people you see on national network, yeah, they're making the big bucks. But those who are at this level, no, it's not big salaries like that. So you need to do it for the love of doing it versus the money.
Oh yeah,
That's the
yeah.
big difference. Do it
That's need
because
to
of the
love.
love of
That's
doing
right.
it versus for the money. The money and time will come sometimes, but even if it doesn't, do it because that's what you love to do. You love to tell those stories.
Okay, what about in your career? What things have been the most memorable moments of your
Oh
career
gosh, there's a
that
lot
you
of
would like to share?
gosh, there's a lot of just meeting new people and being exposed to things that I would not normally. I can remember when I was working at the station in Kansas. There was an African ambassador that I wanted to know something was going on at the time, and so I called their embassy and I said, "Listen, I need to know what this and blah blah." Well, the gentleman was coming through. They were building constituencies for Africa at the time, so they were visiting different places, and so I knew he was coming through my city. So I said, "Okay, I want him on the air." Well, funny enough, the other talk show, Caucasian woman. Now, I was producing for her show, so she had said to me, this is her words. She wasn't really interested in talking to him. That was
Okay.
so Sherry, you do the questions, you do the research, blah blah blah. The day of the interview, I see her waltzing in. She's dressed like she's ready to go. And I'm looking at her like, what? And she goes, well, do you have my questions? I said, what do you mean I have my questions? Because I do. Well, she hijacked the interview.
Oh,
But she said, Sherry, come in with me. Now, the ambassador was the one who really I just sat there and smiled because I was like, okay, see, this is what happens. He goes in, and they're talking. Now, mind you, I've done the research. I've talked to this man the whole 9 yards. I've written the questions he asked. And so she's asking the questions, but she doesn't realize that I'm asking these particular questions because I've done the research. So she's
wow.
sitting there talking, and the ambassador, he's sitting there looking at me, and I'm looking at him smiling, and then she's like looking, she's going downhill, and she's looking at me to save her. And I thought, oh no, this is your whole boat, baby, paddle.
Okay.
Then the ambassador on air said, you have no idea what we're talking about today, do you?
Wow.
And I just looked at her and she looked at me and I smiled and I'm like, answer the man. And when we
That's
got off
good.
air, he said, Miss Smith, your interview was hijacked today, wasn't it? He said, because she had no idea. But
Oh, he knew it.
he
He could
knew it.
see it.
He knew it. That's why he
Okay.
gave her a hard time on air for
Oh,
her to
that's good.
understand.
That
You
was
don't
good.
do
That was
that.
insightful.
That was
So, as a producer, what would you have had to do for her show? As a producer, I'm just
usually as a producer, you if they have a guest, you go find out information about their guest.
okay.
You
All
get
right.
the who, what, when, where, whys
You don't find
of
the
them.
guest.
Yes, you
Oh,
go
you
find the
okay? All
guest too.
right.
If it's somebody that's a particular topic you want to talk about, then you go find experts who know about that topic, and you kind of try to have a variety of opinions, the negative, positive. You then you want to know what questions. I always do my questions on saying, what do I want my listening audience to know? What do they need to know that's going to help them? So then you form your questions that way. And
Okay.
sometimes, like one of my favorite interviews was before he became, okay, I ain't gonna say it that way. One of my most favorite interviews was with Dr. Ben Carson.
Oh, how
Amazing.
fun!
He had just put out his book, Gifted Hands.
I know, and I saw that movie.
And I was so enthralled. Years later, my niece, um, she's a nurse. She worked with Dr. Carson.
Wow.
And I told her about that interview. Now, then he kind of shifted over to the other side for a minute. I was looking like, now, wait a minute, is that the Ben?
I know. It
But he
seemed
was so interesting to talk about. And again, I tell people, don't let anybody tell you what you cannot do. Dr. Carson, from where he came from, no one would have ever thought he would have been the surgeon who separated twins. Nobody had done it before. But this boy was in trouble when he was a young kid. But his mother, she couldn't read.
wow.
He said his mother could not read, but she would make them write essays. And they would take him to her and she'd look over him and say, no, go do it again. It's not good enough. They didn't know until they were much older that their mother could never read what they
This
were
man was
writing.
really gifted. I mean,
But his
he,
mother, though she was uneducated, she understood the importance of
yeah,
education, and she would make them write essays. And he says, I didn't know until I was really almost a grown man that my mother could not
okay,
read. And he
wow,
said, Mother, all those essays you had us writing? She goes, yeah, I knew
that
you
was
could read
such a good
it. She would make
story.
them read it to her.
It was such a good story. His life was such a really intriguing one that you would have thought that he would have been Surgeon General, but I guess someone didn't see
Well,
fit. Okay,
there's still the confinements of
I
the
know, I know,
society
I
that keep
know.
us from. There are
From
lots of
advancing to
places that should
those,
be very melanated, but we still work
we
against a
still working.
system
Yeah,
that
yeah,
needs to be dismantled, and
yeah.
we have to keep working on dismantling it piece by piece. Took 400 years or so to build it.
Do you see that
I see.
in the near future, or do you see that as something that is going to be continued as far as work, or any setbacks in that?
It's going to be an everyday process, and you are going to meet setbacks. That's okay. We've met
Yeah, that's
setbacks
right.
before. Setbacks never
Set
kept
up
us back.
for all right. Oh,
Setbacks never
that's a good
kept
one.
us back.
I like that one better. Setbacks
Slavery was
never
a
kept
huge
us.
setback,
Oh,
and
I
we
got to
we
use
we
that one.
thrived in spite of it because that's what's in us. We are meant to thrive and to grow. We are
That's
not.
what.
I mean, you're going to have a setback, but that strengthens you. It makes you think more critically about, okay, now how do I get around that? How do I survive and get
You're
around that?
right. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
So
You're right.
setbacks were never something that stopped us.
I
Those
know
were
we
things
gonna.
that made us try even harder.
That's right, and that's what
Hmm.
we're gonna have to continue to do. It's been an enjoyable conversation with you.
I have
We're
enjoyed it.
close to that
I got to
end.
come back again.
We got about 2 minutes. Yeah, I know you have to come back
I
again.
have to
We
come
have to
back
come back
again.
and talk about now. Now we're gonna let Miss Sherry Smith just tell us about what she's planning on doing and how you can possibly keep up with her. Do you do social media, or
I
they can?
do social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Sherry5262 on Instagram, and then just Sherry Smith on Facebook. Hopefully, I'm ready to move back into broadcasting. I miss that. I love working with babies, and this is in my whole career. I've fluctuated between two careers: a nonprofit career and radio. When I get tired of radio, I go to nonprofit. When I get tired of nonprofit, I go back to radio. I detoured a little bit into teaching, but I've always been teaching. My whole life I've been teaching. So
I know it's
people
good.
think I'm a
What
teacher.
nonprofit? What
I used
nonprofit?
to work for United Way for a
Okay,
long time. Did
so
lots of
that you
great
could
things with
work with
them.
kids.
Well, no,
So
I worked with United Way because, again, I wanted to tell our story. Many of the board members did not look like us, but yet you're giving resources
okay,
to our communities or whatever. So I needed you
you
to
need to
look
inside.
like the
That's
community you're
okay.
representing.
That's good.
And now with all of this doing away with DEI stuff,
Yeah,
I'm not understanding that we were not the DEI people.
I
Y'all
know.
were.
I know.
We were not.
Yeah,
White women
but the
were the
folk.
benefactors
Yeah,
of that, not us.
yeah.
So, um, but I've always educated, especially young people. Young people are our future. These are the legacies we create. So it's
And that's
important
why
that we
you're in the
pour into them.
international school.
I pour into. It could
That's a
be.
challenging situation,
Yeah.
but you are used to it because you say if you had,
Grew,
I mean, had gone to
but
Taiwan,
grew up in the military.
and so yeah, we work with a lot of different
We
cultures,
do from
and
everything, and these are
none
people,
of them come in knowing English.
and these are children who are
So
coming from difficult. They're war torn
yes,
countries.
yes,
They're
yes.
refugees, and so they need
I
a
enjoy
whole
it
different
because
kind of stuff. But
it
they
puts
still
me in a.
understand good old black motherhood. Now, when they start acting out, I say, listen,
They
I
do,
tell them, I say, look, I have
don't
Medea
they?
tendencies. I'm an old
I
school
don't
black
know if they're
mother. You
used to
just can't
women.
talk to me any kind of way, sweet. If you want to keep living and breathing, you just can't.
I don't know if they're used to women in those positions of authority, but
But they
as
love me. It surprises
they
me.
grow to understand it.
And children, regardless of what language you speak, you understand when a person cares about you,
Yeah,
cares
that's
enough
true.
about you to be
That's
all you
true.
would say you will be your best and nothing less.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that's
That's
where I'm
right.
at with that.
That's right. I just love it. But Sherry, just tell them you've already told them where
Yep, Sherry
they can
Smith on
find.
Facebook
Thank
and
you.
Sherry5262 on Instagram. I'm not all with the
We
TikTok stuff yet. My daughters, she's like, Mom, really, you're just gonna have to. So I try to keep up, but
I could just talk to you forever, Miss Sherry, but time won't allow it. I thank you so much for
thank you
coming
for
out to be our
having
guest,
me.
to inform us, to inspire people, and encourage a whole lot others. Next week, Facebook and all the social media family, we're going to have, help me out, brother, uh, Christina. Darlene, okay, Darlene, you have to listen in on this. If you want to know about anything that's going on, all the cuts in federal programs that are going to be harmful or helpful to your community, wherever you are, y'all tune in. This is a very important person. She's been an ombudsman. She's worked various places. But Darlene Rose will be on our guest list for next week, and we're gonna close this segment of ordinary conversation with extraordinary people. Give it up again for Miss Sherry Smith. Thank you. And we'll see you next week.
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you.